No, you don't see that.
Okay.
For the most part, I mean, it's almost always you see hetero, male and
Uh-huh.
female, you know. But then again, a dog licks its butt, so it's not like, you know, we should be looking at them as an example for
Right.
necessarily. We have ability to reason. Of course, we have divine law, so we know what's right and what's actual and factual and what's not. So
Yeah, I've heard people try to like use that to like justify that it's okay to like be homosexual against humans, like they see animals do it.
absolutely,
And yeah,
absolutely, yeah, we've
that
definitely seen
just,
that.
that just shows
Um,
the wickedness.
oh yeah, oh yeah, crazy. I remember just to show you, just speaking on that, just something crazy. I remember I was at my father's house, and the neighbor had a cat and a dog, and the dog was humping the cat. He was going for the cat. I mean, it's just, but that's an animal. You know what I mean? That's not what we should be looking to in that regard. But yeah, he was, and the neighbor had to continually get, but the animal was excited, or one of them was in heat, or something was going on. I was just looking at that like, I know that's not right. I know that no fruit will be will come from that. But
And
it's
everything after its kind.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly everything after its kind.
Brother,
Everything
can
after.
I ask a question? It's been itching me for the week here.
Go ahead, scratch, bro.
When was grace given?
You say when was grace given?
Yeah. Is it
Um,
right after Adam and Eve or after that?
okay, so when you have any type of sacrifice for sin, which one can infer when you see the coats of skin that were given because something had to die for that.
Right.
So, and then you see the sin offering, you see what's pointed, you see what atonement was, all that's pointing, but that's pointing all to the one that would truly bring grace, which is none other than our Mashiach, the Messiah.
Right. So
Just read something. This is not the topic. So
yeah,
I'm
I know.
we
But
gonna, we
the itch.
scratch this itch real quick, and then we gonna get into the topic. But if we go to the Gospel according to John, just reading something about the Messiah, and that's for anybody that's listening. Usually we had question and answer on Friday night on
I
the Zoom.
know. But,
No, I'm not saying that for you, brother. I'm saying that for anybody that's listening because we
yeah.
live.
Okay.
So in John 1, and referring to the Messiah, it says in verse 9, that was the true light, which lighted every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name. So that's faith, right? But then it says something further down. He says in verse 16, and of his fullness have all we received, and grace for grace. For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth come by Jesus Christ. Okay, so that's how we have grace. Okay, but everything, when you look in the old day, when you look at the sacrificial law, that was all pointing to him. All right, so with that,
Good. Answer the question. It's answer the question. Thanks very much.
yeah, thank you. So with that, we can go ahead and get started. Peace to you, brother Elvin and brother Micaiah, brother Anthony, brother Austin coming in, brother Joseph, brother Joshua, the brother, and brother Marcus. I appreciate y'all coming on this evening. And we got a nice eclectic group here today to talk about the most important topic. I think, just to be honest with you, I think mate selection, besides coming into the truth, is the most important decision that you can make. I really do. It has something to do with your legacy. It has something to do with how you're going to spend your days and whether they will be peaceful or not. And I think we have a good eclectic group. We have brothers as young as just in college and early 20s all the way up to a little bit older. So just a little bit older. So some brothers with some experience. So we can go ahead and get started. And I just, when I look at marriage, I see an institution in a state of crisis. What do you think? Anybody want to respond to that? What do you when you look at people who are married that you know, or when you think of marriage, what comes to mind? That's open for anybody who wants to respond.
It's definitely trouble because you're just how to like.
Wait a minute, brother. Hold on. Stop for a second. Are you married?
No.
Okay, we're gonna let a married person talk first. Hold on, brother. We're gonna come back to you, brother. We're gonna give you the floor.
He went straight to it.
Hold on for a second. One of these brothers that have got a little time in.
Here you go.
Brother Anthony, go ahead.
I mean, definitely once you get into the truth, it's really hard, especially if because of the way the Western world teaches you the system and everything like that. It's hard, man. It's hard to find yourself being the head like you're supposed to be, like you want to be, because you got somebody fighting against that system. You know what I'm saying? The truth. Because they want to be equal.
Okay,
so that's what.
Real quick, just for clarity, just so I understand what you're saying. You saying the system? You talking about like when you come into a marriage covenant with the government? So you got the government, then you and your wife. Are you saying the government puts the woman over you? Is that what you're getting at?
Right. They, or tries to make them an equal to you.
So women and men are not equal. Wait, hold on. So men and women are not equal?
No,
I agree.
That's not what I believe.
I wouldn't even think. Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say I think they put them over.
I don't believe that. When I first got married, I remember this was back in 2008, but I think it was around 2009 or 10. And I was just in the Christian church, at the Church of Christ at the time. And I remember my wife told me that we were equal, and I disagreed then. But I still hadn't been, even now, even bringing her into the truth along with me. Us both been in. That wasn't right. Yeah, I still can't change it though. Even though she can read and she can follow along with us every week. I mean, it's a mindset. I don't know. I don't even know what to do with it.
So okay. Brother Elbert, what were you saying, brother?
No, I was gonna say he said equal. It almost seemed like the way society's structured, they put the woman over you by giving her more rights over. Like if you get divorced, she gets your pension, she gets your house, she gets all massive amounts of child support. So it almost seems like they empower them to have them act out, in my opinion.
Yeah, brother. I would have to agree with you on that, which when you look at extra rights, I mean, for example, if you're talking about just the simple fact of whether or not a woman wants to keep a child or not, right. She can have an abortion and there's nothing really the man can do. In divorce, you really see the tables are not, and things are not fair or not equal in the family court. And I'm one that's I certainly believe in the institution of marriage. I think it's the most important institution amongst mankind. That being said, I always say I cannot suggest that a man in this day and age in the West get a marriage license. Just because of that, just because of what's going on. And when I was saying this in a state of crisis, we look at over a number of years, you've seen the divorce rate at 50%. Now it's gone down. But the reason I think it's going down is because number one, people can't get divorced because they can't afford it. And it's not like it's a moral thing. And another thing to add onto it, fewer people are getting married. Right. Not only are fewer people getting married, those that do get married, it's not like in the days, when you came right out of high school and you get married and stayed married for 60 years. People are putting marriage off. And then another thing, when you get to sisters in particular, as a group, our sisters are having problems getting married, period. So when I look at it, it's a state of crisis. I don't know if anybody want to add to that before I get to really some questions. Willie, you look pensive, like you're thinking about something.
Not really thinking about it. It's clear cut that we're in a state of crisis in terms of marriage. I always go back to it being generational. If you just look at how our parents, and it's not even that they didn't stay together or, you know, they didn't wed or anything like that. It literally goes back to me to how were you raised in terms morally in this book. So with without any guidance from true biblical sense, I'm not talking about, you know, the Christian back in the day, because like you said, you go into the church years ago when you were a teenager or a young man, you seen so many young women already pregnant, not married.
Brother,
So
I went to a Baptist church, and that's one thing as a kid. All those girls my age and in their early 20s, they were all sitting up there pregnant with no husband.
No husband.
It was crazy.
So we can't say that was a lifestyle guided by the truth. So when you look at our past, and that's really in a whole, the system, how our generations before us has come up. We're looking at the destruction because of that, the lack of truth from back then, and the lack of positive and correct upbringing. So we're dealing with the aftermath now with, you know, like you say, our sisters, especially our community got the most churches and the most churches who are not in the truth. So they're not being governed, you know. The moral law has been done away with right along with all of God's commandments. So at the end of the day, we're struggling to repair the breach, you know, and a lot of us are still fixing that. We've come out of that, and you know, as men, trying to get, you know, the last subject, trying to get our manhood back. All of this is relevant one to the other. So, you know, and it's not easy. You know, some of us are dealing with spouses that are not in the truth. But we're being.
Hold off on that part. I'm gonna come back to that. But I do want to say this because you sparked something when you would say, you know, when you look back on what our parents, even our grandparents are doing. Like my grandparents, before they died, they were married 66 years. And I think prior to like no fault divorces and just the time that many people came up in, I know it wasn't perfect. I know you had issues, but like there was a reciprocity. People needed to stay together. You needed each other. When now they're pushing so much individualism to where you don't even need your wife. You don't need a husband. You got women walking around here saying they don't need a man. Like, that's crazy.
Right.
That's insanity. And so I think that, and with the state involved more and more in the institution of marriage, I feel like the state becomes the woman's man.
Facts.
And so she don't need you. She got the state. The state will enforce, oh, you don't want to act right, I'll call the police on you in your house. Or you, because it's really like, you think about no fault divorce, like now, in addition to many women in the workplace, there's more women in the workplace, more women in colleges and universities than men. So the system is set up in a system of institution of reciprocity where there were distinct roles. Now you have it to where everything's turned upside down to where you don't really have an incentive to stay together. In a lot of instances, it can be much harder. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle. Let me get into these questions. Just to keep it a little bit on track with what I wanted to talk about so I don't forget. That's more so for my benefit. So my first question, I'll give you a minute to think about it. What characteristics do you find are necessary in a mate, in a woman? You know that obviously being a believer, I think, would be number one. Now, if you disagree with that, you can say that, but that'd be crazy. So
no, that's that's obviously number one.
Right.
That has to have a foundation. So that'll be the foundation to be in the word. And a meek and a quiet spirit. Man, that thing is gold right there.
Respect.
I think.
Hold on, Joshua. I'm gonna come to you next, brother.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Brother,
So,
regular ISPC. Hold on for a second.
Man, a meek and a quiet spirit, man. It's feminine all around. It's respectful. It's easy to love. It's easy to want to. Not even that you want to, but I think that spirit demands love. That spirit demands love. That spirit demands protection. That spirit demands a godly man. To be honest with you, because I don't think an ungodly man can appreciate that. I think that when you're in the world, and you're loud and obnoxious, you kind of bring that on yourself. So it would take someone to be that counterpart for that, that meek and quiet spirit. You would both have to have that, and I think it would attract a meek and quiet spirit. But it on my list it'll be number one because I've been married twice, and sometimes it's just not easy seeing things not on the same page. It shouldn't be loud and disruptive and can't see eye to eye on things that should be simple to explain or express yourself. Right. So without that spirit, it's really hard to maintain a humble and quiet household. Because I do think men will demand respect if something out of pocket happens. It's kind of like, hey man, you talking to, you can't beat me up. Why you talking to me like that?
But now I want to go hold that word like right there. Now going to Joshua talking about respect. I was just having this conversation. When it comes to women, and respecting the men. Now men understand that if you get out of pocket with another man, or if you get into a confrontation with another man, right? A verbal confrontation. We understand at a certain point, if certain words are said or certain movements are made, somebody could get seriously hurt or even die. We understand that as men.
Mm-hmm.
We understand if a man sitting at 6'5", 6'6", 280, it's like, I think I heard Jordan Peterson say it's like two bears. Bears, when two male bears come together, they understand that, hey, one might kill the other. But with the state and with what's going on now, I see more disrespect of men by women and by their wives than I can recall. So, Brother Joshua, what were you saying about respect?
Oh, that's the first thing that came to my mind. Because when you talking to somebody, I mean, some women, men wouldn't. Jack, you just saying. A lot of men wouldn't even say some of the things that women are quick to say to men. You know what I'm saying?
Why do you think it is?
I think that it's because they didn't have a father in their life. They never really seen a man. You know what I'm saying? Or coming from that upbringing, without being a man or without a man being around. Or sometimes their man was around. Their father was around. You know what I'm saying? And they seen their mother do that. And maybe he was weak and he just allowed that, and they think that that's strength, how much you can take from somebody. They think that, that's, they have this unconditional love. I should be able to say whatever I want to say to you. You should still be, you should understand that I'm angry, but no, there's certain things that shouldn't be said at all. That's how fight starts. That's how violence starts, and that's a terrible thing. So that's the first thing that came to my mind is respect. Women, they're not. Someone may even say that the black man has lost respect. I've heard some say that. Oh, he lost respect because he this and that, or whatever. It's just a shame.
Yeah.
What about
disrespected men, period. But brother
Right,
Willie,
right.
what'd you say?
I was gonna say, man, they got the law on their side. And most women, they know a man will not put a smart man ain't putting his hands. Any man, men do it. I don't condone any abuse of any sort. No, none. But I do understand that women will antagonize a man and push him to that point when she know he won't do anything because he got a lot to lose. You could talk to me crazy, and it's like, what you gonna do? You gonna hit me and go to jail?
Exactly. I just heard Safari say, I think he tweeted it or something. He's gonna end his marriage or something. I'm getting away from this woman because I should have never got married, or something to that effect. And he was saying that nobody's worth my freedom because if I stay here, I'm gonna do something. So kind of like what the brother was saying about respect.
Yeah.
About respect. You mentioned something, Joshua, about fathers. I guess I want to get back on this point, but just I'm gonna get back on this point, but I want to pull that out. How important is it for a woman to have a father? Is that something that's important?
I mean,
what I mean is brought up by a father.
Right. I mean, that's very, very important because he is the example he should be the example of what to look for in a man.
Gotcha.
And he should be, he's the protector of the home and things like that. If women had fathers around, and men too, but like I was saying though about that situation, those things, when they don't have a father around, they don't know what a man is. They don't know how to respect the man because he's never in a house. And things like that. He's not around. They know him they know what they may think, from TV and shows and things like that. But yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna go around back to that original question. What characteristics do you find necessary? And I want to go to the man who I think has been married longer than anybody, my brother Elbert, if I'm not mistaken. How long you been married, brother?
I'm almost 32 years, man.
See, when you forget, when you got decades in it, that's a long time. So what do you think as far as characteristics in a mate? What do you think are necessary for marriage?
I talk to my daughters a lot, and I told them that any man that's worth his salt is looking for a wife that can represent him well and take care of the household. Now, I know that sounds chauvinistic, but I honestly, because I was always going to work, but my wife, I wanted her, I needed to see qualities that she could raise my children. And I needed to see she was going to take care of my home when I was working my 2 jobs and stuff. And like everybody said, I ain't never missed a meal. And it's true. I ain't missed a meal. So those are important qualities to me. But at the same time, like the brother said, the man is the example for the female as well as the son in the house. He's the central figure in my mind. Well, actually, we know it because we see what happens now that he's out. When the men are out, we see what happens.
Chaos.
Yes.
Chaos. Okay. All right, brother Isaiah.
Yeah, brother.
What you got for us?
Can you? I've been married like 20-something years, and the thing I look for in a lady before the word, I'll compare it before the word and after the word. It was just the phenotype. It was before the word, the phenotype, she physique, how she looks, how she dress, and after the word, I regret a lot of my choices. I didn't know. right? And I heard Brother Elba just talk. I wish I had him around to tell me these things. But I knew I had to take care of my family, and I took care of my family doing 2 jobs and making sure that they get everything. I moved from the islands because it was a rat race to get to, for me in order to get to college, what you guys call university. So I moved when I had my first kid, and I did that. But now I wish I met you guys earlier, meet the word earlier, so I could put the fear of God in my kids. And now is a struggle because they reach a threshold point that they have to find it themselves instead of me showing them. And I think that is some of the problems with women today, is that there's no fear of God taught to them from their fathers. So they won't fear their husband, right? And when I say fear, not
I
tremble
know.
and quiver,
From a reverence of
right?
respect.
Right. In that sense of respect. But no, a woman who sits and read, and on her mind is about God. We could talk, we commune with brothers together, we congregate. This is the thing I yearn for now. This is the thing I'm hungry for. No, and I have to put the past in the past and work on what I have now and try to build, and try to lure my wife into the word somehow. Um, I don't want to kick anyone to the curb because I spent so much time already knowing this person, and God know if my wife divorced me now, I that's the end of it. I ain't marrying again. I just can go deeper and focus harder in the word. But
So
to say,
go ahead. Go ahead.
what?
Actually, I was gonna ask you just real quick, so I'm understanding. You said
Yeah,
basically her believing is the most important thing to you, right? As far as character.
her believing, because as the Lord said, right, two can walk together unless they agree.
Agree.
And if we can't walk together, like now we gonna be opposite polarities, and um disrespect and fights, and not talking to and not communicating to, because of the word, and you had to fight about what you eat and what you must bring in the house. And that's the thing now that I will tell the brothers, look for these things, interview that woman over and over from a biblical perspective, right? Interview her, make sure she don't trick you into marrying her, and because you are this obedient person, right? But no,
We all
no,
get tricked, bro.
yeah,
I've
you
been
know,
tricked.
and that's the way I think that men should go, is like, use the book, right, to make your choice. Let the book teach you how to make the choice, right? The choices, sorry, instead of making them like how I did in the past, right?
Appreciate that, brother. That's good advice. Now I don't know who's been married. Well, I don't know who's been married longer, Micaiah or Joseph. Or one of y'all two can go next. I know Mo kind of he newly married. So how many years you been married, brother?
We've been married about, I want to say 3 years, but we've been together about 12 or 13 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I don't know, Micaiah or Joseph, whichever one of you brothers want to go first. Brother Joseph, if you talking, you muted, brother.
No, it doesn't say mute.
I hear you now. You low though.
Yeah.
Your sound is real low.
Mm-hmm.
Problem. Somebody told me that earlier today on a different Zoom. Yes, I do have a question though. I've not been with Melissa for how long did you say? 13 years, Micaiah?
No, that was Mo. 13
Yeah.
years. You've been
No,
married
right.
it is 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I've been with Melissa for 5 years. We didn't go through a wedding ceremony or anything like that. So I consider her my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And we discussed this before we even became
considered a thing together. We discussed what that entailed.
And it's not it's not, you see in scripture, that's not necessarily required.
Yes, well, I didn't
Right.
go to the state. I didn't get a marriage license. I did put a ring on her finger, but we've since let those go. We don't have the rings because mine, I've got it. It's on my key ring. I don't wear it.
He put on his key ring with his keys.
And
But so what characteristics do you think are essential for a mate?
reverence and submission.
Reverence and submission. Okay.
First of all, to believe in God, to be a believer, but also reverence, which at first I actually considered that she lacked, which she just has a lax way of showing it. She has a reverence, but it's not as strong as what I felt. So I thought that was lacking, which it wasn't. It was just me. I was expecting to see more from someone who supposedly was into the word, but she's learning now the truth of the word, what the truths are, and she's all on board.
Oh, praise the Lord for that. That's good. Those are two good ones. Reverence and submission. Brother Makai, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with all the brothers. They made some really good points. I can say the same for me as well. Respecting God first, because if she respects God, she's gonna respect you, because that's part of that order.
Mm-hmm.
And so my wife, she grew up, dealing with God her whole life. Yeah, we was in folly a little bit, but you can tell that she always had that foundation of trying to serve God. She was in the Bible and things like that. So that was really attractive to me and to her when we met. And so we kind of grown in the word together. So that's kind of helped us learning about God together. But yeah, and she has a quiet spirit about her as well. So all the things the brother said, I'm in agreement with. But you got to be, again, back to our other topic last week, you got to be a man. There was an old saying, it's kind of cliche, you can't be a nickel looking for a dime. So you got to make sure you on your game, and your lady will follow. I believe that, because that's how God set it up. And I believe women actually desire that in men. If you're soft, they're going to treat you like you're soft. So.
Yep.
Brother, I agree with you 100. If it can't be 110%. And when you really think about, like, we talk about submission, which I agree. Obviously, the word says a woman is supposed to submit. I agree, obviously. But then when you think about what that means from a woman's perspective, you have to submit to somebody. Therefore, is this person even worthy of that?
Mm-hmm.
And so the question, because and then men get tested all the time by their women.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they be a bad wife or a good wife, just to see where you at.
Yeah.
And I kind of just, it's like logically I can see why that takes place. But yeah. Brother Anthony, you want to add? Characteristics essential for a mate.
Yeah, I would agree with pretty much. I mean, a lot of things like brother Willie, he brought up one I would have suggested, and so did brother Joseph. So yeah, that's exactly what I would be looking for. Right now, if I was looking today, and it's just something about the whole thing. Just like I said, we've been in it for like a year now, but I had a different mindset that even allowed me to get married. I had to just say I wanted to just be with one woman, and even though now I know I didn't even know God, that was the reason why I was saying like that's not the reason why, but that was where I figured I was getting my strength from to have the courage just to be with one woman.
You think that's courageous?
I don't know if it's courageous or not, but I know that was one of my weaknesses, you know,
Is
just
that a
women.
weakness? I mean,
was.
I understand in a certain way, whoremongering is a problem.
Right. Yeah.
But when I look at the biological imperative of men, I can understand why men are with more than one woman. It just need to be done in righteousness, as we see according to the scripture. We can have that panel a different day. Because it's not, you think about it, why these men, why they doing the things that they're doing, quote unquote, creeping and cheating. It boils down to the biological imperative. But we can have that discussion. We're gonna have that discussion another day. But go ahead, brother. Finish what you were saying, brother. I cut you off.
Yeah. So I've been married for 13 years, and I think those are really good qualities. If you can find, if your woman or wife can show you reverence and submit, and also just have that meek and humble spirit, those are great qualities. They're priceless because they'll bring you so much peace, you know. And a lot of times that's all a man really wants is peace, you know. Especially when he comes home and he's with his family, he wants peace.
That's largely misunderstood. I totally agree. That's one thing. Just when I think about my wife, I know that she got that kind of disposition. But then if somebody says, I can't remember what brother said it earlier, somebody embarrassing you. Oh no, brother Elbert. It was brother Elbert talking about representing the house. You represent basically him. Like I know for a fact, and there's no situation that I've ever been in or ever gonna be in where my wife gonna go embarrass me. I know that. Just cause how she carry herself. And then she was like that before me. You see what I'm saying? So I know that I'll never have to work because I've seen that. I've seen men get disrespected in public by their wives. That's a horrible feeling. That's a degrading feeling. So, but brother Mo, what you got?
Yeah, I totally agree with all the brothers. I mean, my wife always called her beautiful. I've been calling her that pretty much since I've known her. And the main thing I noticed in her when I met her was her meek and quiet spirit. She is extremely submissive. She's very passive when it comes to me. She's very sensitive when it comes to me. And she really didn't know much about the word until I introduced her to it. And she just followed me, you know, and I mean, we really, really tight. I noticed that a lot of women, they don't bridle their tongues much. And I say that to the women that so-called call themselves God-fearing women. They like to overtalk and control and manipulate men quite a bit. And to me, I personally couldn't tolerate that. As a man, I'm like, I don't see how guys put up with it. But I see it, I see it 24/7. And I'm like, wow, y'all take that? But like you said earlier, Elisha, it seemed like the women first married to the state, then you. So if you get out of pocket toward them, they're gonna call, the state and patrol troopers coming at you. Yeah, the boys coming. So I was like, wow, I just knew then, stay away from that. My mom and dad, I'm 36 now, and they've been married about 40 years or so. Mm-hmm. So I got to see that growing up. And I knew from then, I was like, I'm gonna have to find somebody compatible with me and I can grow with. And I could see myself having kids with. So I was just really blessed and fortunate to meet her. I wouldn't trade her for nothing in the world, but yeah, meek and quiet spirit, humble, submissive, it's perfect.
Brother, that and the attitude, like to me, that's where the true beauty lies.
Yeah, absolutely. And, absolutely.
Yeah, because beauty physically is or attractiveness physically is always fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
At least my looks, anyway.
What's that?
At least my looks, anyway.
Nah, but that's the human condition, bro. We like, and you put your stock in that, and it's here today and gone tomorrow, and you haven't
Mm-hmm.
developed character, intellect, or anything like that. Specifically, you see women, you know, like but when you have a woman that has that kind of mindset, that's to me, that's a treasure. That's rare, and I'm not just saying that. Like, and that you don't see it.
Right. Exactly.
You do not see it. Now I kind of lost track of who hasn't spoken yet on this particular topic. I don't know. I think we started with Joshua.
Austin.
Brother, got Austin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In addition to all of the things that the older men have said, I believe that.
Hold on, stop the press. How old are you?
22.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe that a woman should be a virgin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You know, especially right now, you know, me being in college and just seeing, I had a whole thing that played out. If a woman is a virgin, it tells a lot about her character. So,
time out. Stop the press. I was looking at a study yesterday, preparing for this discussion, and it said by the 2010s, only 5% of women were virgins when in America were married. Only 5% of women were virgins when they got married.
Is this a recent article? Because it's probably okay.
It's probably lower than that now.
It's been a couple of days. It's probably lower than that.
Since you brought that up, okay. My question to you, because I have a list. I'm gonna read my list. I got a list. I'm gonna read it. But it made me think about my list. But as a young man, what are you saying? Describe what you're seeing when you think about, okay, I maybe want to get married one day, and you look at the pool of available women. What is on your mind when you see it?
It's just when somebody was telling me about their dad. Their dad is like 60 or something like that. And he was telling me how his dad had got married at 20, 22, something like that, and was able to establish a family and, you know, do all those things. And in my mind, I'm like, how did he do that? And it just showed me like how far removed we are from like just structure and order. Because right now it's just like it's completely, it's all the way dysfunctional. It's all the way dysfunctional. And I look at it now and it's like, it's just in my best interest to just focus on me. Because you don't really, right now, we read about the things that men shouldn't do as far as picking like a spouse. But it don't take all of that to know that you shouldn't be dealing with these women. You don't even
common sense. Wow.
Just
Wow. Yeah, it's
bad.
And that's another thing that I mentioned, I was reading studies, and that's another thing, like I said, that, you know, you have people, they're graduating, and usually by the time you're ready to graduate, you know, back in the day, people were ready to get married. They were engaged in college, or they were engaged right out of high school. But they, you know, I was reading and they said that's being put on hold. So, you know, people 27, 28, 29, 30, and then you find yourself not married.
They push the bar further back.
What's that?
I was saying that they it seemed like they push the bar further back, where they, you know, they make people think that's too young to get married around 20 years old. You should live your life, you know. They make marriage seem like it's a prison or something like that. You know, they call it being tied down. You know, that's what they would say. You know, when we was in school, you know, they would have they say, "What would you see yourself 5 years from now?" I remember being in like the 4th and the 5th grade. You know, they would say, "What would you see yourself 5 years from now?" They would say, "Do you have goals to go to college? What do you want to be?" You know, and things like that. And I was saying, you know, to be an artist. And they was like, "Well, what about marriage?" And for some reason, I thought that, you know, being 30 was old. And I would say, okay, when I'm 30 years old, I'll be ready to get married. But I'm 32 years old right now, and I'm looking back at that like, man, where did that, come from? But it came from not being raised right. You know what I'm saying? Because my parents, they've been together for a long, long time. They've been together for like 30 some years, but it was nothing but a fight the whole time. I never seen them kiss each other, never seen them hug each other or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? My mama, she told me that that my dad asked her to get married. I never even knew that. I was shocked. All that fighting and stuff, so he asked her, to marry him. That's what she told me. And she had denied it and kept the ring. She kept the ring, but she turned down the marriage, and then she would tell me they was considered to be married by the law and things like that, common law. But no, like you teach from the word, marriage is, what I'm saying, when you it's not just you could be married but not operating as a marriage
and function.
Right, not functioning like that. So so that right there is what we see, growing up, and they just push the bar further back, and nobody thinks about marriage when they're young now.
Yeah, right now they teach they teach it in a lot of our classes too. They teach that there's no gender roles. They teach that, it's crazy. They teach a lot of different things that if a young person doesn't have anything to combat the things that's being pushed on them, then they just gonna conform, to the foolishness that's going on around them. And so they don't know. A lot of people don't have no concept of marriage or anything like that. So yeah. I'll be looking at a lot of young women, and it's just like, I ask myself, is she okay? Just because of how they be dressing, it's
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I assume you mean provocatively.
Yeah. It was a couple when I got here. When I first got to college my freshman year, it was so bad that I was like, how did she not get a citation for public indecency? Just because it was crazy, man. Crazy. Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you, do you believe putting off getting married makes it harder because you get stuck in your ways more? The only reason why I bring that up, basically, me and my wife grew up together. We experienced life together. So the reason why the people I know that's having a hard time did what you're saying. They went to college, the woman started her career, and now I don't need you, I got my own money, and you try to mesh these two households who, you've been in your way for a long time. It's hard for people to give up the way they've been living.
Yeah, I think that it's different for men versus women. Women have a shorter time span than men to, do what they need to do. But I think for men, if you just focus on what you got to do, then everything gonna fall in place for you, and that's all you have to do. Because I look at it right now, it's just like that's all I have to do. Just avoid the the nonsense, and just keep going. So.
And you said something about growing up together, and just in tying it into kind of that virginity piece. I also was reading in studies that show like the more partners a woman has, the more likely she is to get divorced. Yeah. I'm sorry. What's that, brother?
Let me tell you a quick story happened. I met a guy and he asked me, do you remember me? And I said, no, I don't. He said, well, I was so-and-so. I showed up with so-and-so to I ain't gonna say the name, to a get together. And I was like, bruh, she with a different dude every time I see her. And, just talking off the top of my head, didn't think he was into her like that. And he went back and said, I can't be with her no more. because of her, she had that track record. So that's the reason I was adding on to what you were saying. It actually happened. So,
and we're gonna get to that issue. What makes you not marriage material? But hold that thought. So I'll start that with you. I'm gonna come back, brother. I think brother Marcus. You want to chime in, brother?
Yeah, just to reiterate, because there's a lot of stuff that I can't really add much more. You want a submissive wife. You want somebody that fears the Lord, keep his commandments. But like, as others like mentioned as well, you need to fear the Lord yourself and submit. Just as she submits to you, you need to submit to the Lord as well.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that's wise. Yeah. I'm gonna go back to Brother Elbert. So my next question is, what do women do that make themselves not marriage, quote unquote, not marriage material?
Now, understand, I'm answering these questions before I, was in the word. So I'm just talking from my experience as just being a regular man.
Okay.
The reason why I felt my wife was marriage material, because she hadn't been all over the city. Because you know how men talk where we used to talk. Yeah, my dude was with her last week, or okay, maybe the dude's out with.
No, that's yeah.
And we would talk about, oh, that's so and so. She do this, she that. We compare notes on how how she behaved in private situations and stuff. And I didn't want no murmurings or whisperings, about my wife when I walked in the room with somebody. So that's it. So they need to stay, which is like the Bible said, wholesome. So that a man would be proud to walk somewhere with her,
Brother, when you look at the accusation, the husband's accusation of saying that a woman was not a virgin, and how they would bring out the tokens of virginity, and see if he was untruthful, and then they would tax him, for bringing that upon him, that those words upon a virgin in Israel. But if it was true, that was a capital punishment. Look how far we've fallen. To I say like 5% of females. And I understand that's not me saying that men are not engaged, because clearly they're sleeping with somebody. You got a lot of whoremongering going on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to make it to where it's just women like they sleeping with themselves. No, you engaged in something, he's engaged in something that's not right. I want to say my list though real quick, because I didn't say my list, and I'm gonna go to what I think it makes you not marriage material. Just in general, okay? So on my list, I have 7. Well, obviously, I think a woman should be not just quote unquote in the word, because that gets thrown around, that phrase, it gets thrown around a lot, but zealous for living according to the word. Like if I wasn't there, she's still gonna be serving God. And if I stop serving God forbid, I stop serving God or something like that, she's still gonna be serving God no matter what. Yeah. Second would be virgin. That's what I had next. Third, submissive, cooperative. Let's see. Genuinely pleasant, not like for real, like nice. Intelligent, traditional, like with traditional values, and then physically attractive at the bottom. Like all that stuff is more important to me than that. I'm not saying physical attractiveness is not important, but what I'm saying is these are more important to me. And just going to this next question, what are some things that make you not marriage material? Obviously not a believer, promiscuous, immodest, like what the brother was talking about, she need the citation for indecent exposure, masculine, right? Mm-hmm. So you're acting like a man, you're in a masculine frame, you're acting as a man. I think, I can't remember if it was might have been Brother Micaiah that was talking about, being a man, and then like, she followed, I can't remember exactly which one, but it was said like you know, you got to be a man. That might have been Brother Micaiah.
Yeah,
and,
it was.
It was.
And lastly, but not least, illegitimate children. You know, and I know that's a tough one because we've gotten so far off track now that, again, I was looking at these studies and you know, approximately 70% of Black children are born out of wedlock. And when I think about marriage and what that means, number one, if you have a child, the child is always going to be number one for a woman. At least when it's your child, you know, that's your seed. And that, and so you're willing, you know, to give up your life for your seed, your wife, etc. But so you coming into a situation where you got somebody who has a child, their number one priority is that child. And I'm not saying that's wrong. But then, can you discipline that child? Then, are you gonna have to pay for that child? Then, what about, not only that, that's that man's child.
Mm-hmm.
That's his baby. That's his son. That's his daughter. You really out of pocket. You can be out of pocket telling them something because really, when you really look at it, I know what the state says, I know what a woman might say, but that's his child.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition, what's the relationship between that man and your wife? Because a lot of times things are rekindled under your nose and you don't have an idea. So to me, and I've seen that growing up. You know, I know people right now, they married, they had a wife, had a child, and they going through all kind of changes because of the child. Now I understand that there's a lot of women with children that need a child, but that's not ideal. And I think we incentivize as a society bad behavior. Oh, you have a child? Well, you can get whipped. You have a child, legitimate child. You can have Section 8. You can have public assistance. You can have all these things and then be put on a pedestal for having a baby out of wedlock. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. So those are some things that make you not an ideal candidate. And I understand, like, it's women with children, they're in certain situations. I'm not talking about the widow. I'm not even necessarily talking about the woman that had a husband and that husband divorced her or something happened. But still, even in that case, it could still be a problem. But we have 70% of children born out of wedlock, and that's happening. It's rising amongst not just us, but it's rising amongst all people. It's not just in the United States. You're seeing it in the Western world. That's becoming more acceptable to have children outside of the confines of marriage. So I don't know who wants to go next, who wants to add to that, or what do you think makes a woman, if you had something that has not been said, what do you think makes a woman not marriage material?
I can tell you, I'm guilty of those last remarks for sure, man. When I had my first child when I was, I had to be 17.
Mm.
And sometimes I look at, one day I remember I had a customer, they were asking me about my oldest, and when I thought about it, I was like, 28, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, dang, I got a 28-year-old kid, So
Yeah.
and I had two children with her, and I had another son with another girl, So I had 3 boys, and I wasn't even thinking about marriage. I mean, that was like the furthest thing from my mind,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guilty of even putting a woman in that position, because she was ready to get married. I wasn't. I wasn't. No way. So, I just feel bad even thinking about it.
And I'll bring it up. I know that could be, I'm not saying you uncomfortable, but even somebody that might be hearing this may seem like, that's being judgmental, uncomfortable, but you need to understand that you do not want a bunch of illegitimate children. You don't want illegitimate children, period, as a woman. Like we have, like, even I always talk about this. Certain things, it don't matter what you do, you gonna be celebrated. You was a black queen and a crack fiend, mama. That's impossible. You're not a black queen and a crack fiend. Certain we have to stop just overlooking certain behavior. Like, you think about these, you got young people, they having baby showers for illegitimate children. Man, you need to sit down somewhere and re-examine what you're doing out here. That's nothing to celebrate. Back in the day, you would have got sent down south and came back with your little brother or sister. I mean, that's how much shame was associated with it. Now it's like, oh, look at the baby. Let's rub the belly of a 17-year-old that's pregnant. That is asinine. And when you look at our community and you see these children, you look at Chicago, they're killing each other. Well, why do you think that is? Because you didn't bring them into a structured situation. They in poverty. Well, why do you think that is? Because you're not married. You see what I'm saying? So that's just, we got to stop looking at it as something that's, I always say this, shame is good. Shame can be good. Shame can cause you to change and improve your life. But when you're ashamed of, if you're not ashamed of anything, you're liable to do anything.
Right.
So I can't, I know because that'll hit a lot of people, a lot of women in particular. But I'm here to tell you, that's not what you should be doing. Having illegitimate children. You have women literally talking about they'll have a baby with a man, but then when you marry, I ain't ready to get married. You just had a baby.
Yeah, one of my tenants was like that.
Really?
Yeah, she in fact, she went out looking for a man just to have the baby, and she didn't want no man. She just wanted the baby.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Anybody else want to add to that one before I move on?
Yeah, I was gonna say that me being in school, I see a lot of young women that they often have the mindset that they're like a black queen and all of that other stuff like that, just being independent. And so I see a lot of that, and I just, that's a complete indicator that there's not a person that I should.
Yeah, because like, bro, we throw that word around. You don't have a kingdom.
No, it's not like I'm not about to be your unit. You're not about to. I'm a servant of the Lord. You're not about to sit up here and just emasculate like me like that. So
that's ridiculous. I understand as a people we've been degraded, but we have to, or we should, live in reality. The reality is that more than likely you don't have royal lineage. More than likely you go back 2,000 years, your people was in a village somewhere or in a city doing what you're doing, being everyday average people. That's crazy. Yeah, and then all that promiscuity. And when you think about it logically, women in America, people on average women start having sex 16, 17 years old, as do men. So they start doing that then. That's in high school. Then they go to college and get buck wild, right? Then you live a little longer, you might have a baby here or there. One or two, I'm talking about as a woman. And then you look around and say, who gonna clean all this up? Who gonna clean this mess up? Now you looking for somebody to take care of two illegitimate children when you shouldn't have had them in the first place. I'm not saying get an abortion. I'm saying you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
And we act as if that's okay. And that's part of the problem. Our response to some of this behavior is ridiculous.
Prideful.
What?
Prideful. That's one of the traits that you don't want, from a woman, because if they cannot admit that they've done wrong, there can't be no change. You got to be humble,
And And yeah, and it's funny when you think about it. I'm still thinking about what Brother Anthony said. He said, "Man, I'm ashamed that I put a woman in that position." You know what I'm saying? Because it's not like we can't be held accountable. But one thing about men is we always being shown when we doing wrong, even when we not. It's your fault.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we gotta look at our situation collectively and be like, hold on, man, there's some things we doing, there's some behavior that we engaged in that's just not okay. And then again, this is for anybody who is listening now or may listen in the future. If you got in your mind right now that you mad at what I'm saying, you need to check your thinking. You need to check yourself and really realize what you're saying. Or what you're thinking, rather. Because I know somebody, Jaws type might hear this. But it is what it is. Anybody else got something on this one?
I was just gonna say one more thing. When you think about it, like this type of communication, it really doesn't go on in the black households. So I mean, it's probably a low tenth of a percentage of black families that talk about it. But when they have illegitimate kids, young, at a young age, I mean, it's celebrated to some degree. I mean, they it's not like they discourage it at all. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
it's the norm.
But when you look at it from say a white male, I mean, their parents are looking at him and I mean they're shaking their head with straight disgust. Like, I can't believe you did this. You ruined your whole life.
Yeah. And now they are less likely, but even amongst them the illegitimacy rate is going up. And one thing about it, you go back to the 40s, from slavery up until around the 40s, up until black people were getting married more and not having illegitimate children. Even out of a system like slavery, we weren't having as many illegitimate children. But when you get the welfare state, when you get women incentivized to have children and not have a man in the house, the state basically said, "I'll be your man." And you look at the Monahan report, they were saying, when he came out with that report, he was saying, like, matter of fact, I just want to read something out of that. I'm going to read, this is from the Monahan report. It says, and this was in 1965. And this was something he published. It was called The Negro Family, the Case for National Action. And listen to what he said. That was a time when 25% of blacks were born outside of wedlock. And he looked at it as a catastrophe. Now we got 70%. He said, quote, "A community that allows a large number of young men to grow up in broken homes dominated by women, never acquiring any stable relationship to male authority, never acquiring any rational expectations about the future. That community asks for and gets chaos, crime, violence, unrest, unrestrained lashing out at the whole social structure. That is not only to be expected, it is very near to inevitable." He said that in 1960, he wrote that in 1965 in response to a 25% illegitimacy rate amongst black folks. And we see that today. We see what he's talking about today. He said it is only logical. He didn't have to go to prophecy to read that. It's only logical that would take place. It's only logic. Anybody else got anything on this one?
Now, I was going to add what you said. I had two young men over here, 10 and 13. They spent 2 days with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Y'all ready to go home?" And the brother told me no.
Mm.
He said, because his mom gets mad. And, I almost cried right then. Because the 2 days he was with me, we in the basement. I got on worked out thing. He playing like he can lift weights and all that, And he did not, because I guess when he goes home, he just plays video games in his room all day.
Mm.
So, my son picked him up today. So we're going to snatch him every weekend from now on.
That's cool.
No, the reason why I say that is because what you said with that single mother in the house, not all, but something ain't right, and it's affecting the boys. You know,
brother, manhood is something that basically, it don't just happen because you age. You know what I mean? Just because you 30 don't mean you're a man. Manhood is something that you enter into. And the best way to do that, you have to see a man. You know, you see an actual man. I ain't talking about a man, an actual man and how he operate. And that's another thing. You know, certain men play certain roles in your life. My father was a central man in my life. My father and my grandfather. Those are the two men I saw the most. But I also had other men in my family that I could look to that played a different role. Okay? For example, my Uncle Fred, he played a role in my life where I could see. He told me stories about Vietnam. You know, he was my favorite uncle. I had an uncle from New York, my Uncle Doug, who was, man, you look at him, man, he clean. He clean. He had swag before they was talking about swag. He looked like Duke Ellington. You know, coolest man you ever want to meet. I had men like I could look to. You know, and that makes a huge difference. As a teacher, one thing I see is that the children that have the most problems, they don't have a man, they don't have a father there. That it almost never fails. And you can understand why a woman can be upset or angry to a degree, because basically you're being asked to carry a burden of not just raising your children, but the economic burden as well. The discipline burden. By the time these boys get to 12, you taller than your mother, you start to grow a hair under your arms, you start smelling yourself, you think you tough. But if a father there, you know what time it is. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, it definitely makes a difference. And we are basically building, like he said, fractured households. The man, he is, in the Hebrew, you look at that, you look at the pictograph of Hebrew, the tent and the pole, he the strength of the house. That's what the man is. He the strength of the house. And you remove the strength, you know, you're gonna have problems. You're gonna have problems for sure. Anybody else before I move on to the next one? Okay. Let's see. We're gonna wrap up soon, but I am a firm believer. You can agree, you can definitely disagree with me, but I want to know what your thoughts on this. I'm a firm believer in arranged marriage. I think that, especially with believers, I think that arranged marriages are the way to go. Some might say, how come you got love me and you don't know what love is? You don't even know what love is. Love is not romance. That's romance. Roman. That's not love. For a man to sacrifice responsibility, for a woman is submission. But I want to know what you brothers think about arranged marriages, if that's something. Just what your thoughts on that are.
I'll pick up on that. Excuse me. Oh, I highly agree with that. I have two daughters, one 12 and another one is 3. And just looking at the condition of our men today, how can you allow your child to go out there and pick a male, a husband? How is that possible? It's impossible. If you just look at the percentage of, people who so-called are in the word or, trying to follow after, righteousness the right way, it's limited. We're the minority. And I was just sitting there thinking, if it wasn't for YouTube, I didn't have the word around me physically. So my child, when she becomes an adult, if I don't present the word to her, Where's she gonna find it? Number one, and how she expect to find or to be a wife, a woman, according to the Bible, if I don't teach her how to be a woman, because she ain't gonna be able to look around and find it if I'm not presenting it, because it's not available. Right. And a husband, I got to do that work for you. You sit back and I'll find you a husband. Like, that's how I feel. But here's the thing with my oldest daughter, I have an ex-wife and she ain't in the word. And I know how she grew up. I know how she chose her men, you know? And I'm saying I'm gonna have to fight against what my daughter thinks is best for herself. And what her mama thinks is, you know, she should have the opportunity to choose, you know, let her pick who she wants. Like, that's going to be the battle. But I speak to my daughter on a daily basis. And I kind of get a little, you know, explicit when I talk to her about it. I have to, because it's like, you can't sugarcoat the truth with your kids. You know, this ain't no Christmas and Easter bunnies. You got to keep it 100% funky with your kids, especially your girls. And how they have to be extra safe, and your cookie is gold. And if you let it go, it's going to drop down. It's going to be the next mineral. It's going to keep dropping until it's dirt. So you hold that. I got to let her know, you got to hold that. That's your value. That's going to be, I could get a lot of cattle off of you. You hold on to that. You understand? I'm looking at it like, I'm being funny, but at the end of the day, if you just gonna give it away, what you gonna be worth to the next man, to a husband? You know, though you can't be like every one of the women around you. You gotta be worth something. What makes you different than your friend? You know, and if you're gonna be expendable and just out there in the street, you know, it's not gonna be easy to find a real man. You're gonna find males, but if you're looking for a real man, you're gonna have to, like Brother Austin said, that virginity is your ticket and a mindset to go with that.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. Agree with you 100%. Yeah, when you look at that, it's like, and you dying these young girls, they dying not to be a virgin, but you degrading yourself. And not only that, it's like this whole thing, you're gonna be a born again virgin. That's not, no, no, stop it. That does not exist. I'm a born again virgin. No, you're not. That's like you spilling water all on the ground and you trying to put it back into a water bottle. Like, that's not, no. It's out there.
Is that real?
Born again virgin?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real. Man, you know what, brother? You know, you used to hear it a lot. So you used to hear a lot saying born again virgin. You know what you hear now? Don't shame women. Don't shame me.
Oh. Yeah.
We live in a society where you literally have slut walks. Yeah. Well, they ain't having that because of COVID. They probably, might put a mask on and have a march, slut walk march with a mask on. But like, that's where we at now.
On is the mask.
What's that?
That's the most clothes they have on is the mask.
That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm starting to believe in them arranged marriages now, because there's an area couple across the street. The guy is older.
Yeah.
You know, he had to go to the family. And then I start looking into it. The dude got to build the house for the woman ahead of time to prove to the family he's capable. And then he got the marry her. So I was like, I don't think that's a
brother. When you look at the dowry, it served a few purposes. It served the purpose, number one, to show a man. Well, first of all, the father was going to lose an asset in losing his daughter. It's an African proverb. When you raise up a daughter, right? You basically you watering somebody else's crops, basically, because she's gonna be a benefit to that household. She becomes a part of that household. So the father loses an asset to his household, but it also shows a man's worthiness. It shows that he's worthy. See, a man that ain't worth nothing, he ain't building nothing. building a house, he ain't even gonna get no rent for an apartment, you know. And then in addition, you know, it can act as insurance for the woman just in case something happened. So that's the importance of a dowry. But yeah, you look at other cultures, man. You can't just and something, you know, Islam is not a, you know, I don't, obviously we don't ascribe to Islam, but when you look at certain things that go on in the Arabic culture, you can't necessarily just approach a woman. You can't just walk up on no one, man, you get killed in certain situations. You can't just walk up on nobody. I ain't talking about sexual assault. I'm talking about like how these Negroes do today. Hey, shorty, you know, you can't do that. You have to go through a man to get to that woman.
Yep.
Yeah.
I see it every day at work.
My neighbor's in the Nation of Islam, and he talked about they basically have a manual of how they're supposed to operate when we call it what we would call courting. It was only at a certain point where they could even ride in the front seat together. We send our 16, 17-year-olds to prom and just, oh, isn't that nice? And they go to prom. Oh, you ain't got to go home tonight. What do you think they're gonna be doing? Like, yeah, it's crazy.
Man.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine. He did his master's, then get an arranged marriage back home in his village, right in the east, and then he brought the woman over to live with him in his family house, right? Not in a house by himself, in his family house. And he said all his family know is arranged marriages. Yeah. Because it was strange to me. It was strange language to me. It was a strange thing to me seeing that, man, you go and you meet a woman, you didn't even see her before, talk to her. But the arrangement was she was guaranteed a virgin, right? He paid the dowry. This was his woman now. These things we're talking, they're doing some of it.
Yeah, and you look at what's, because people think it is weird, but clearly what we're doing now is not working.
Yeah.
What we're doing in the West is not working.
Right.
With the divorce rate, the illegitimacy rate, it's definitely not working. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. And it's one thing about it too, if you are older, especially because in certain instances you have, like in India, you have the women do it. The women will they will make the quote unquote match make. They will make that, and it might be an aunt or a relative like that. Because one thing about it, you know, you don't know what you need, and you don't know what you even should be looking for when you're a young person, you don't know any better. These people, you know, you got young people. I'm around young people. They're quote unquote be in love. Why? Because they like his sneakers. Stupid stuff. You know, you know, he light skinned. Stupid stuff like that. But and then of course that's nothing to build anything on. But you don't even know what you need. See, you can even be righteous, and I feel like when you're young, you really don't know what you need. But people who look at you and care about you, particularly a father, even a mother with her input, they will know what you need. Because they know you. They're looking at you from a different perspective. Well, you deficient in this. She bring that to the table. Because what are we basing these relationships on? Mainly on clearly on physical attractiveness.
That's how it starts. Yeah.
That's I'm not saying that don't have its place. Don't get me wrong, but that can't be the end all to all. Somebody backside, that can't be the you gonna build a life off of that. That's foolishness.
I was just thinking about I was talking to my brother today. He's doing substitute teaching. He's out in Jacksonville, Florida. And he's told me a few times, you know, about the things that these kids are doing and talking about at school. But he was dealing with, I think, some ninth graders today, and I don't know exactly how he approached approached them and was able to hear that conversation. But a couple ninth grade girls talking, and one is telling the other girl about her sexual experience that she just had, I guess, the night before or something like that. And I mean, it was pretty explicit. And he had to, like, hey, what are y'all talking about? Hey, cut that out. And I mean, it's like she saw him standing there and she just continued to talk about it.
Didn't care.
Yeah, she didn't care at all, And he said he deals with that all the time. And he said even at the high school, he said these kids are they're like grown-ups. It's like you can't tell them. You'll end up in a fight with them if you try to tell them what to do. He said he just to keep his blood pressure down, not to not to get himself in any trouble. He just really doesn't tell them anything as long as they don't get too carried away. But he said they show up, man. He said these kids they'll have brand new Charger or Dodge Charger keys, half naked, and brand new sneakers on every day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how did you get a rental car in the first place? Man, I just don't understand what these parents are doing now. I really don't. I mean, even just having the situation I had, I was pretty strict. I'm talking about where my kids didn't even want to come. They didn't even want to come with me during the summertime. They were begging to stay at home with their mom. I was just strict. I had structure. So it's just tough.
Yeah, brother. I mean, I just been in education for a number of years. I totally understand what you say. Your brother.
Yeah.
I just totally understand what he's saying, because I see it. Quite frankly, just some of the stuff I've seen is way worse than that. I just leave it at that. Not diminishing that, but I'm saying I've seen some extreme things.
Yeah. But I've been thinking a lot about that. As far as my daughter, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I've been, since I got into the word, like really over the last few, probably 6 months or so, I've been thinking a lot as far as, the man, the father being the cover for his daughter, and when I try to imagine like how's that gonna go down for me, because I'm sure I'm gonna have to even kind of have that conversation with my wife, and I don't even know how to. I want to kind of address it now, and I don't know how I'm going to approach it without getting a bunch of tears. You know what I'm saying? From a 10-year-old, she gonna start crying.
I mean, you don't get in there and tell her you getting married tomorrow. Like, you just tell her, like, you bring, but it would be better if you bring it up now, to be honest, bro, with your wife. Yeah, so they get used to the idea.
I'm just even with the whole thing, as far as like, all right, just clothing that that she's wearing. I'm like, hey, that's too short. You need to take those shorts off. And she goes to her mom. She's like, Daddy said these are too short. And then her mom's like, those are not too short. That's how I can't help. She has long legs and this, all these different things. It's like, hey, don't let. I don't want her going out like that. So it's like you trying to change things. It's from the way they're looking at it, it's like you trying to change this stuff now.
Brother,
it's kind of tough.
Yeah, you changing it now. You know better. You do better. Don't fold.
Oh, I don't. I mean, I don't.
That's what I'm talking about. Because you think about it. You think about what you're saying, and I understand because I have a daughter. Not saying she's ever dressed inappropriately. What I am saying is that I know what they selling to little girls in these stores. Mm-hmm. So you think about it. It's totally fine in their eyes for a 10-year-old to have on some booty shorts, because that's what that is. That's crazy. The over-sexualization of children is so prevalent that we don't even, it's just normal. I go shopping in the summer. I cannot believe some of the things that I'm talking about, shopping in the supermarket. Some of the things that kids have on, and their father and mother are right there. I'm like, this is, How you let your child come out of the house? I've literally seen somebody in a store where, imagine somebody with a t-shirt on and that's all you can see. Just a t-shirt. That's how short the shorts were. And you with your mama. How's that? So, yeah, they're going to have a problem with it. And that's, we all know that's out of order, to be honest. Her going to your mother, because what you said should have been what it was, and that was it. And she should have backed you up. So, but whatever you do, I would say stand firm on what you're talking. Don't fold. Because what was that comedian? This is not me talking about you or your household, but what did Chris Rock say? His whole thing was make sure his daughter don't get on the pole. No. we gotta protect our daughters. It don't matter what no boy talking about. It don't even matter what your wife talking about. If she not operating in what's right, it matter what you gotta do what you supposed to do, because you the protector of that household. That's what you there for. Mm-hmm. No, that's why I got my 12 gauge. That's perfect for somebody who want to act a fool. Not with mine, you ain't. So nah, man, yeah, brother. You got to stand firm on that, brother. Stand firm on that.
I agree.
All right, brother. Anybody else have anything? Anything you want to add? I think that's it.
I was gonna say one thing. I totally agree upon the arranged marriages. I totally agree on that. I totally agree about that situation. I just want to say that.
He said, I concur. Yeah.
Right. I second that.
I second that.
Yeah. I want to add just, I've never considered it, but yes, I'm in agreement. Considering the topics we've just discussed, that's a very good thing to consider. I mean, Melissa has a daughter that is 8 years old. I've been raising her for 5 years now. She's one of those I had to teach how to not go to school with shorts that are so short her shirt covers it and it looks like all she's wearing is a t-shirt. Yes, I've been through that. That's why I was shaking my head when y'all said that. I was like, because arranged marriage, yes, that's a good thought. I've never considered that before, but yes, I like that.
Yeah, I look at and then.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
I took my phone case off. Is it any better now?
Yeah, it's way better.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Way better. It sounds cool now. Yeah, I just let the word shape my perspective on things, and I look at it through a biblical lens, and that's what I see. So that's I can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with the word.
You even see it in scriptures.
Yeah,
you see it all over the scripture.
That was arranged marriage. Yeah, so yeah, they were arranged.
I was gonna say that in addition to arranged marriage, I believe that the older generation should be involved in a lot of more decisions that the young people make, not just in marriage, but just in life in general. Because it's a disconnect between younger people and older people, and it's just a problem.
Who told you that?
I just looking like people like
I told you that.
You told me that. You told me that, and then I looked, and then I was like, just hearing what like older people say, they be trying to avoid younger people. I'm in a class with one of my teachers, and he's the class is Black masculinity.
Okay.
But I listened to what he said. He was like, yeah, I'll be embarrassed sometimes because I'll be seeing a lot of y'all younger folk, and I had to just move out the way. So I'm like, man, it's crazy.
Yeah. The disconnect between the young and the old is one of the most significant problems in society, because society is the future society is based on what the younger people are going to do. The problem is, with all their idealism, and their lack of experience. See, they're the only ones with the energy and the idealism to get it done, whatever it is, wherever you're going. But the problem is you need wisdom from the old. And when you have a disconnect there, you don't know what to do. You see what I'm saying? You don't know what to do. And just to speaking of that connection, I believe also that, you know, before marriage, really, you know, it's like older people are not telling you what you're getting into. You don't know what this is. You just smiling and butterfly. Then you look up and you marry. You like, whoa, this is something, you know. So I think that's another thing with a disconnect. You know, I firmly believe that if people talking about marriage, they need to sit down with some people that can provide them with some insight, whether it be somebody that's 60 years in, 20 in, or even 5 years.
Yeah,
insight into what it would be good to sit down and listen to what you're getting into, because they don't tell you.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. I remember when you first told me that. When I just looking around and observing, I was like, that's true. That's true, 100%.
Yeah, you don't know. Well, Marcus, you say something?
Yeah, with the disconnect, that's like a problem with the world in general. Like I heard it said somewhere, like with all the sexual immorality that's going on, all the new ideas that they're introducing, like that's like the Sodom and Gomorrah. Like they're not trying to change the old generation; they're trying to change like the new generation, and like that's going to lead to like this further like moral decadence, as you said, as is spoken in the Word of God. So
yeah, it's with that, you know, it's yeah, that whole agenda was not for older people.
Yeah,
that was to get the children, definitely, and they have succeeded. You know, because if you had a connection, really true connection with the older generation, they couldn't just push something, because the older generation would tell you what right and correct is.
Yeah.
But since there's such a disconnect, and now you think just because somebody tell you something that's older, you think, oh, that's just old fashioned. No, it could be just wisdom. Just because it's old don't mean it don't work. Just because it's new don't mean it does work. And we're seeing that today. But that, brothers, is I think this was a fruitful conversation, and I appreciate y'all coming on here. And I'm gonna ask y'all if y'all could, for our next one, maybe if you could text me some ideas. I know I got on my mind, but maybe if y'all text me some ideas, maybe some things y'all might want to talk about, and we can get that going.
Okay.
All right. I appreciate y'all, brothers, and Lord willing, I'll see y'all tomorrow on the Saturday.
Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, question and answer. All right, peace, brothers. Thanks again.
Peace, everybody.
Peace, everybody.
Be safe. Have a good night.
Peace, everybody.